The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth lit up at once, showing the same image: a massive ship, dark and angular, approaching Earth's orbit. In the Global Defense Force headquarters, Commander James Stone watched as his technical team tried to understand what they were seeing. The ship was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. "Sir," a young officer called out, "they're broadcasting on all frequencies." The message was clear and cold. "Primitive species of Earth, you have 30 days to surrender your world to the Dominion. Resist, and you will be eliminated. Your response is expected within one planetary rotation." The room fell silent. Decades of wondering if we were alone in the universe, and this was humanity's answer. Commander Stone straightened his uniform. "Get me the World Council. Now." Within hours, the World Council gathered in an emergency session. Leaders from every nation watched in stunned silence as more ships appeared behind the first one. Each vessel was a perfect geometric shape, their surfaces smooth and flawless. "They're scanning us," reported the chief scientist. "Their technology. It's beyond anything we've ever seen." The Dominion's second message was even colder than the first. It showed images from Earth's history: wars, pollution, poverty. "Your species is primitive and destructive," the alien voice declared. "You will be given a chance to exist under our guidance. Resist, and you will join the other species who foolishly challenged the Dominion's perfect order." Commander Stone stood before the World Council, his face grim but determined. "They think they're giving us a choice," he said. "But surrender means slavery. I studied their scans. These ships have been to other worlds. Every planet they've guided has been stripped of resources, its people used as labor." The council erupted in debate. Some wanted to surrender. How could Earth fight such advanced technology? Others demanded immediate military action. Stone's voice cut through the chaos. "We need to be smart about this. They're giving us 30 days. Then we use every second." In their ships above, the Dominion watched Earth's reactions with cold amusement. Their sensors showed humans scrambling in panic, militaries mobilizing, civilians fleeing cities. Exactly what they expected from a primitive species. But they missed something important. Deep underground, in secure bunkers around the world, humanity's best minds were gathering. Scientists, strategists, engineers, all working together in secret. "Look at their technology," Dr. Anna Miller told her team in the main research facility. "It's perfect, too perfect. Everything they do follows exact patterns. There's something important about that." Commander Stone visited each major bunker, coordinating Earth's response. "They think we're animals," he told his officers. "Good. Let them think that. The greatest advantage in any fight is being underestimated." The Dominion sent daily messages, each one designed to show their power. They demonstrated weapons that could vaporize mountains, shields that could stop any attack, technology that seemed like magic. But humans noticed things, small things, how every Dominion action followed precise patterns, how their ships moved in perfect formation, never varying, how their messages always came at exactly the same time each day. 28 days after the first message, Stone met with the World Council again. "We're not ready for a direct fight," he admitted, "but we've learned more about them than they know. They think order and perfection make them superior. They see our emotions, our unpredictability, as weaknesses." He smiled slightly. "That's going to be their biggest mistake." The Council voted unanimously. Earth would not surrender. When the Dominion received this response, their leader was actually pleased. Another primitive species choosing extinction over enlightenment. The coming war would be perfect, ordered, and brief, just like all their other conquests. They didn't understand what they were really facing. A species that had survived ice ages and asteroids, that had climbed from caves to space in a blink of cosmic time, that had faced extinction before and always found a way to survive. Humanity had 30 days to prepare for war. They would make every moment count. The fluorescent lights in the underground lab flickered as Dr. Anna Miller stared at her computer screen for the 20th time that night. Dark circles had formed under her eyes, but she couldn't stop now. Not when they were so close to finding something important. "Doctor, you need to see this," called Robert from the next room. His voice trembled with excitement. Dr. Miller rushed over, her coffee cup forgotten on her desk. The neural scanning room was filled with holographic displays showing brain activity patterns from both human volunteers and the captured Dominion soldier. The differences were striking. Where the Dominion's neural patterns moved in perfect, predictable waves, human brains looked like fireworks displays. Each thought created dozens of simultaneous connections, branching out in patterns that seemed random but somehow worked together. "Run it again," Dr. Miller ordered, her heart beating faster. Robert nodded and repeated the test. The results were the same. "Get Commander Stone down here now," she said, reaching for the secure phone line. Her hands shook as she dialed. This could change everything. Within 30 minutes, Commander Stone arrived with his security team. His weathered face showed the strain of the past weeks, but his eyes remained sharp and alert. "This better be good, Doctor. We're running out of time," he said, checking his watch. The Dominion's deadline was now just 23 days away. Dr. Miller pointed to the main display. "The Dominion thinks we're primitive because our technology isn't as advanced as theirs. But look at this." She played the neural pattern comparison again. "Their brains process information like computers, perfectly ordered, completely predictable. Ours," she smiled, "ours are chaos in motion." Commander Stone frowned. "And this helps us how?" "We can process information up to 3 times faster than they can." Robert cut in, unable to contain his excitement. "Their perfect order makes them slow. They have to think through every step. We make intuitive leaps. We can adapt on the fly." Dr. Miller nodded. "More importantly, their technology is based on their way of thinking. Ordered. Predictable. Like their minds." She pulled up another display. "Their weapons, their ships, their entire military strategy. It all follows the same patterns, patterns we can learn to break." Understanding dawned on Commander Stone's face. "You're saying we can outthink them?" "Better than that," Dr. Miller said, pulling up a new series of tests. "Their technology actually struggles to handle unpredictable input, and nothing is more unpredictable than human emotion and creativity." She demonstrated by showing how their equipment malfunctioned when exposed to the neural patterns of humans experiencing strong emotions. Hope, fear, determination. These created energy signatures that disrupted Dominion tech. "So while they've been looking down on us as primitive animals," Commander Stone started, "we've actually been their worst nightmare all along," Dr. Miller finished. "We just didn't know it." Over the next few hours, they developed a plan. They would keep this discovery secret, using it to prepare a defense the Dominion would never expect. The world's governments were notified through secure channels, and a unified strategy began to take shape. Research facilities around the globe began working on ways to amplify human neural patterns. Military strategists started developing tactics that would appear completely illogical to the Dominion's ordered minds. And most importantly, the human spirit of defiance grew stronger. As dawn broke over the lab complex, Dr. Miller stood at the window, watching the sunrise. Robert approached her with a fresh cup of coffee. "Do you think this will be enough?" he asked quietly. She took the coffee, thinking about all the times in history when humans had faced seemingly impossible odds. "You know what's funny?" she said. "The Dominion thinks they're superior because they've eliminated uncertainty from their civilization. But that's exactly why we'll win. Because we're used to uncertainty. Because we thrive on it," she corrected. "Every great human achievement came from someone facing the unknown and refusing to back down. That's not our weakness. It's our strength." Somewhere above them, Dominion ships hung in orbit, waiting for humanity's surrender. They didn't know it yet, but they were about to learn a crucial lesson. Never underestimate a species that had turned survival against the odds into an art form. The world united under a simple banner: "We will endure." And for the first time since the Dominion arrived, humanity had more than just courage on their side. They had proof that being human wasn't a disadvantage. It was their greatest weapon. The sky turned dark at noon, not from clouds, but from the massive ships that now blocked the sun. The Dominion's deadline had passed, and they came with terrifying force. Commander Stone stood in the underground command center, watching as red dots appeared on the global map. Each dot represented a major city under attack: New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. The dots kept multiplying. "Sir, they're broadcasting their victory message on all channels," a young officer reported. "Let them," Commander Stone said calmly. "Let them think they've won." Above ground, the scene was chaos. The Dominion's ships, each one bigger than a small city, released thousands of smaller craft. Their weapons turned skyscrapers into dust. Roads melted. The air filled with smoke and screams. But something was odd about the way humans were retreating. Too organized, too purposeful. In New York, waves of people fled into the subway systems. In London, they poured into old World War II bunkers. Moscow's population vanished into a network of underground shelters, all according to plan. The Dominion troops landed in empty cities. Their perfect formations marched through abandoned streets. Their sensors showed no resistance, no military response, just scattered groups of humans running away. Primitive species, the Dominion commander transmitted to his forces. They break so easily. But he was wrong. Deep underground, in bunkers around the world, humans were far from broken. They were waiting. Dr. Miller's discovery had let them prepare in ways the Dominion couldn't imagine. "Status report," Commander Stone demanded. "Underground networks are at 100% capacity," came the response. "All major population centers successfully evacuated. Resistance cells in position." Stone nodded. The Dominion thought they were dealing with simple animals fleeing in terror. They didn't understand that every retreat was planned. Every abandoned city was a trap. In the ruins of Tokyo, a Dominion patrol marched past a destroyed hospital. They didn't notice the subtle flicker of their sensors, caused by the hidden humans whose determination and anger created interference patterns in their equipment. Similar scenes played out worldwide. The Dominion's perfect formations began experiencing small problems. Communications would cut out for a few seconds. Sensors would show ghost readings. Nothing major, just enough to make them waste time and resources checking their equipment. "Sir," an officer called to Stone, "Phase 1 is complete. All Dominion forces have committed to the surface attacks." Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Begin Phase 2. Across the planet, hidden resistance fighters activated devices based on Dr. Miller's research. The devices didn't look impressive, just small boxes powered by human neural patterns, but their effect was devastating. Dominion soldiers found their perfect formations falling into confusion. Their weapons, designed to work in predictable patterns, began to malfunction. Their communications filled with static. "What's happening?" the Dominion commander demanded as reports flooded in. His troops were losing coordination, missing targets, fighting shadows. Underground, Commander Stone watched the Dominion's perfect invasion turn to chaos. "Send the message," he ordered. Every screen in every Dominion ship suddenly showed the same words: "Welcome to humanity's house. We play by different rules here." The resistance emerged from hidden bunkers and tunnels, striking at confused Dominion troops. Their tactics made no sense to the invaders, attacking when they should retreat, retreating when they should attack, appearing from impossible places. "Sir," a junior officer reported to Stone, "casualty reports are coming in. We're losing people." Stone's face grew grim. "We knew we would, but we're not fighting for easy victory. We're fighting for survival. And that's something we humans do very well." The first day of invasion ended with the Dominion holding most major cities. Empty cities full of shadows and tricks. Cities that refused to behave the way conquered places should. As night fell, Commander Stone looked at the map again. The red dots now showed Dominion positions, like targets. Day 1 complete, he said quietly. Now the real fight begins. 2 months into the occupation, the Dominion's high commander stared at reports that made no sense. Every morning, they showed victory. Every evening, they showed failure. Nothing worked the way it should. In his command ship high above Earth, he watched another secured supply line disappear into chaos. His perfect military machine was breaking down, piece by piece. Meanwhile, in her underground lab, Dr. Miller made an amazing discovery. She hadn't slept in 2 days, but her hands were steady as she showed the results to her team. "Look at these readings," she said, pointing to the screen. "When humans feel strong emotions, especially hope and determination, we create energy patterns. These patterns don't just disrupt their tech, they spread." Robert leaned closer to the screen. "Spread? Like a virus." "Like a wave," she corrected. "When one human feels strong hope, it affects others nearby. And when enough humans feel it together." She didn't need to finish. They could all see the data. Large groups of humans feeling strong emotions together created energy fields that made Dominion technology go haywire. Above ground, the Dominion was learning this the hard way. Their soldiers couldn't understand why their weapons worked perfectly during training, but failed during actual fights. Why their sensors showed clear readings one moment and nonsense the next. In New York's ruins, a group of resistance fighters huddled in an old subway tunnel. They had no special weapons, just normal guns and makeshift bombs. But they had something else. They had each other, and they had hope. Team 3 reporting. The radio crackled. "Supply convoy approaching. 10 vehicles, standard guard pattern." The resistance leader, Mike, nodded to his team. They'd done this so many times now. The Dominion never changed their patterns, couldn't understand why they should. "Remember," Mike said quietly, "they expect us to attack the front or back. So we'll hit them from the sides and middle at the same time. No pattern, no plan, just chaos." The Dominion convoy moved perfectly down the ruined street. Their sensors showed nothing wrong. Then everything went wrong at once. Attacks came from impossible angles. Their sensors showed hundreds of targets that weren't there. Their perfect formation fell apart. In London, Paris, and Moscow, similar scenes played out. The Dominion couldn't understand why their superior technology kept failing against primitive human weapons. Back in the lab, Dr. Miller made another breakthrough. She rushed to the command center where Commander Stone was reviewing battle reports. "Commander," she said, out of breath, "we found something big. The Dominion's weakness. It's bigger than we thought. They can't handle human unpredictability because they literally can't process it. Their brains just skip over anything that doesn't fit their patterns." Stone turned to her. "What do you mean?" "They see what they expect to see," she explained. "When we do something completely unexpected, their minds actually filter it out. That's why their sensors fail. That's why their soldiers get confused. They're fighting an enemy their brains can't properly process." This news spread through the resistance networks. Humans began using this weakness more deliberately. They'd make noise in one place while attacking from another. They'd retreat when the Dominion expected an attack when they expected surrender. The Dominion's perfect war machine began to crack. In his ship, the High Commander received more confusing reports. His soldiers were starting to show signs of stress, something that hadn't happened in the million-year history of their empire. "Impossible," he muttered, watching another operation fail. "They're just animals, primitive beings. How are they doing this?" But deep underground, in bunkers and tunnels across the world, humans knew exactly how they were doing it. They were doing what humans had always done: adapting, improvising, working together in ways that defied logical prediction. Dr. Miller looked at her latest readings and smiled. "They thought our emotions made us weak," she told her team. "They never understood. Our emotions make us strong, and now they're learning." Never underestimate the human factor. Tom Walker hadn't slept in 3 days. Empty coffee cups littered his workshop in the underground bunker. Parts from broken Dominion weapons were scattered across his workbench. He was close to something big. He could feel it. Just one more try, he mumbled, connecting wires to a strange-looking device. It was roughly the size of a microwave, built from a mix of human and Dominion technology. The device hummed to life, its lights pulsing in an uneven rhythm that would have given any Dominion soldier a headache. Tom checked his readings and suddenly sat up straight. "This is it," he whispered. Then louder, "This is it." His shout brought Dr. Miller running from her nearby lab. She found Tom dancing around his workbench, holding what looked like a mess of metal and wires. "What's it?" she asked, trying to hide her smile at his excitement. "I call it the Hope Engine," Tom said, still grinning. "It takes everything we learned about human neural patterns and amplifies it. Watch this." He turned it on. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Dr. Miller noticed her tablet acting strange. The screen flickered, then went dark. "That's Dominion-based tech, right?" Tom asked, pointing at her tablet. "Now watch what happens when I think about how much I want to beat them." The tablet didn't just flicker this time. It sparked and died completely. Dr. Miller's eyes went wide. "You've weaponized hope," she said softly. Within hours, Commander Stone stood in Tom's workshop, watching the demonstration. His usual stern expression broke into a rare smile. "How quickly can you make more?" he asked. "With help? Maybe one per day," Tom replied. "But here's the best part. They work better when more people are nearby. The more humans feeling hope and determination, the stronger the effect." Commander Stone immediately put every available engineer to work building hope engines. They installed the first ones in major resistance strongholds. The effects were immediate. In New York, a Dominion patrol approached a resistance hideout. Their weapons systems failed completely when they got within range of the Hope engine. The resistance fighters, using simple human weapons, drove them back easily. Similar scenes played out across the globe. For the first time, the Dominion began losing ground. But the real test came in London. The Dominion had turned the city into their main ground base. They had thousands of troops there, backed by their best technology. The resistance planned their biggest attack yet. They placed Hope engines throughout the underground tunnels. Hundreds of fighters gathered, their combined determination making the devices pulse with power. "Remember," the London resistance leader told his people, "the stronger we believe, the stronger these devices work. Think about your homes, your families, everything they took from us." The attack began at dawn. Dominion systems crashed across the city. Their perfect formations fell apart as their communications died. Their weapons became useless pieces of metal. The resistance struck from all directions at once. They used tactics that made no sense to the Dominion's logical minds. They attacked in ways that should have been impossible. By sunset, London was free. The news spread quickly through human networks. For the first time, they had taken back a major city. The Dominion's perfect record of conquests was broken. In his workshop, Tom watched the reports come in. Dr. Miller stood beside him, both of them exhausted but smiling. "You know what this means?" she asked. Tom nodded. "It means we have a real chance now." In the command center, Commander Stone was already planning the next phase. The Hope engines had changed everything. Finally, they had a weapon that turned humanity's greatest strengths, their emotions and unpredictability, into something that could defeat the Dominion's technology. "Send word to all resistance cells," he ordered. "Operation Prometheus begins in 1 week." The war wasn't over, but for the first time, victory felt possible. The Hope engines hummed throughout the underground base, powered by something the Dominion could never understand: the unshakable human spirit. Operation Prometheus began in darkness. 3 captured Dominion ships, hidden in the mountains for weeks, rose silently into the night sky. Each ship had been modified with multiple Hope engines, their hulls now pulsing with a faint blue light. Commander Stone stood on the bridge of the lead ship, named Spirit of Earth. Around him, human crew members worked at stolen Dominion controls, their determination making the Hope engines hum louder. "All ships report ready," his communications officer said. "Hope engine levels are stable." Stone nodded. "Begin Phase 1. The three ships climbed higher, heading straight for the Dominion's command ship, a massive vessel that hung above Earth like a metal moon. It had never been challenged before. That was about to change. In her lab, Dr. Miller watched through surveillance feeds. "The Hope engines are performing better than expected," she reported over the radio. "The crew's emotional states are amplifying their power by 300%. The Dominion noticed the approaching ships but didn't recognize them as a threat. Their sensors showed them as their own vessels, returning from patrol. The perfect, predictable patterns of their technology were now working against them." Detection range in 30 seconds, Tom Walker reported from his station. He had insisted on joining the mission, wanting to see his Hope engines in action. They're about to realize those aren't their crews. The moment came. Alarms blared across the Dominion command ship as they finally detected the human presence. But it was too late. "Now," Commander Stone ordered. All three human ships activated their Hope engines at full power. The effect was devastating. The Dominion's shields flickered and died. Their weapons systems crashed. Even their artificial gravity became unstable. "Launch boarding teams," Stone commanded. Teams of resistance fighters, armed with simple human weapons and portable Hope engines, burst from the captured ships. They moved in seemingly random patterns that the Dominion's defense systems couldn't track. The Dominion soldiers, faced with weapons that actually worked and enemies they couldn't predict, began to fall back in confusion. Their perfect formation broke down into chaos. "Main control room ahead," reported the lead boarding team. "Heavy resistance." Stone's voice came over their radios. "Remember your training. Do the unexpected. Be human." The boarding teams split up and attacked from 3 directions at once, using tactics that made no logical sense to the Dominion defenders. They threw flashbangs filled with Hope engine energy, creating zones where Dominion technology simply stopped working. In the midst of the battle, Tom noticed something on his readings. "Commander, the Hope engines, they're getting stronger. The more we succeed, the more hope the crews feel, the more powerful they become." It was true. Each human victory made the next one easier. The Dominion's perfect systems couldn't handle the cascade of failures caused by amplified human emotions. The fight for the control room was fierce but quick. Human determination, backed by Hope engine technology, proved stronger than Dominion's superiority. Within hours, the massive command ship was under human control. "Send the signal," Commander Stone ordered. All across Earth, resistance cells received the message they'd been waiting for. They launched simultaneous attacks on Dominion positions worldwide, using their own Hope engines. The Dominion forces, cut off from their command ship and faced with weapons that turned their own technology against them, began to crumble. In the captured command center, Stone watched as the Dominion's perfect invasion fell apart. Dr. Miller's voice came over the radio, excited. "Commander, we're detecting similar energy patterns from other invaded worlds. The other species, they're starting to resist too." Tom checked his instruments. "She's right. The Hope engines, they're affecting more than just Dominion tech. They're inspiring others to fight back." Commander Stone allowed himself a small smile. "Send a message to all Earth forces and any other species who can hear us. The time of the Dominion is over. Today, freedom begins." The counterattack had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. But Stone knew this was just the beginning. The real challenge would be building something better from the ashes of the Dominion's empire. "Prepare for Phase 2, he ordered. "We have a galaxy to free." The great hall of the former Dominion command ship looked very different now. Where once cold, metallic perfection ruled, now delegates from 100 worlds gathered. Some looked human-like, others were completely alien, but they all shared one thing: they were free. Commander Stone stood at the central platform, Dr. Miller and Tom Walker beside him. Through the massive viewing window behind them, Earth shone like a blue jewel. 1 year ago, Stone began, his voice carrying across the quiet hall. Humanity faced extinction. Today, we gather to build something new. The last year had been incredible. After the fall of the command ship, the Dominion's million-year empire had crumbled in just months. Their perfect order, once their strength, became their weakness. They couldn't adapt fast enough to the wave of rebellions that swept across the galaxy. The Hope engines had changed everything. Not just as weapons, but as symbols. Other enslaved species, seeing humanity's success, found their own courage, their own hope. Dr. Miller stepped forward, showing holographic data to the gathered delegates. The energy patterns we discovered. The power of hope, determination, and unpredictability. They're not unique to humans. We just learned to use them first. Every species has this potential. In the crowd, representatives from different worlds nodded. They had seen it themselves. Once they stopped trying to fight like the Dominion, once they embraced their own unique ways, victory came quickly. Tom Walker spoke next, pointing to a new version of the Hope engine displayed beside him. This new model doesn't just disrupt technology. It helps different species communicate, share emotions, understand each other. It's not a weapon anymore. It's a bridge. The delegates murmured in approval. Many of them had already seen this work. Former enemies were now allies, united by their shared experience of freedom. We're here today, Commander Stone continued, to establish the Federation of Free Worlds. Not an empire like the Dominion, but a community. Every species equal, every voice heard. As he spoke, screens around the hall showed images from across the galaxy. Dominion structures being rebuilt into schools and hospitals. Former slave worlds blooming with new life. Species that had been enemies under Dominion rule now working together. In Earth's cities, humans and aliens worked side by side to rebuild. The underground bunkers where humanity had hidden were becoming museums and memorials. The ruins left by war were being replaced with new buildings that mixed styles from across the galaxy. The Dominion thought unity meant sameness, Dr. Miller said to the assembly. They thought perfection meant eliminating differences. They were wrong. Real strength comes from diversity, from unpredictability, from the freedom to be unique. The remaining Dominion forces had retreated to a small corner of the galaxy, but they weren't the same anymore. Many of their younger members had begun to question their old ways. Some had even defected, choosing freedom over perfection. Tom walked to the front of the platform, holding up a small device. This is the last Hope engine ever made as a weapon. From now on, they'll only be tools for peace, for understanding, for hope. The delegates rose in applause. Stone raised his hands for quiet. We won this war not because we were stronger or more advanced, he said, but because we remembered what the Dominion had forgotten. That life isn't about perfect order. It's about growth, change, the courage to face the unknown, and the wisdom to learn from each other. As if to prove his point, the hall erupted in 100 different types of cheers, each species celebrating in their own unique way. The Hope engines throughout the ship pulsed with the combined joy and optimism of the gathered beings. Outside, Earth's sun rose over the planet's curve, casting golden light across the hall. It shone on humans and aliens alike, all standing together, all free. Humanity had not just survived. They had changed the galaxy. And this was just the beginning. In the endless space before them, countless stars waited to be explored, not as conquerors like the Dominion, but as explorers, allies, and friends. The future was uncertain, unpredictable, full of challenges and surprises, just the way humans liked it.